perspective.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
Sharing the love, spreading the light in real time. Friday night love stream.
Very happy to have a guy we instantly resonated with. Unbiased and on the fence. I'm talking about Shane C. Robinson. And his purpose is to rise above the worldviews that are designed to separate us so we can unite as one.
Sometimes you have to sort of take a step back, and I think Unbiased and On the Fence is a really, really good title for your show, because you are in the central point when you're unbiased and on the fence. That's what it means. It doesn't mean you're indecisive. It means you are taking the central point and you're seeing the multiple perspectives.
Unbiased and On the Fence.
If you haven't checked Unbiased on the Fence, go and check his channel out. You might like it.
This is Dan Hofel from Talk is Cheap, and you're listening to Unbiased and On the Fence with Shane Robinson.
If this much sincerity enters your life, come to this much. What I know, I know. What I do not know, I do not know. I don't believe anything, I don't disbelieve anything. I'm willing to look at everything. You will become a sensible human being.
Have you checked out our website?
Visit us on the web at uotf.net. You're listening to The Love Stream.
All around the world in real time.
This is Shane with Unbiased and On the Fence. You're listening to the Friday Night Love Stream.
Your calls, your stories, on air. You're listening to the Love Stream.
Sharing the love and spreading the light all around the world. This is Unbiased and On the Fence.
Unbiased and On the Fence.
It's the Friday Night Love Stream. How's everybody doing tonight? I hope you're feeling great. I'm feeling great. Finally moving away from these headaches I've been having, so everything's wonderful. Let's see here. I thought the phone lines were open, but we actually have our dear friend Sherry with us, Overprotected Sherry. You're actually Overprotected Bella now, right? Since YouTube's been punking you around a little bit.
Yeah, it's so sad. It's a sad story. I lost my YouTube channel, and it's sad. I tried to stick up for myself, but it didn't work. So I guess
everything
it's
will
meant
work
to be,
out.
Right?
Everything will work out for you. I have no doubt. I have no doubt.
Anyway, so I was calling in to tell everybody about a few things that happened to me. And let's see, I'm going to start with this one. On the Monday night show, we had Kevin Estrella on, and he had contact with these little aliens, and they had they communicate with telepathy, and they're supposed to teach people telepathy and stuff like that. And I thought it was cool and all, and that's great for him. And I'm not saying I didn't believe him. I just thought, wow, that's interesting. We all hear all kind of stuff about each other and all that. Well, anyway, so I had this dream one night that there's these two orbs flying around in the sky, and they're swirling around each other kind of erratically, and then all of a sudden they turn into metal ships, and one of them crashed into a fence and another one went over it. And then I went around on the other side of the fence and took a picture of it, and there was a satellite right there. And then I woke up and I was hurrying to write it down, and all of a sudden I had this knowing that it was this little alien named Radar, and that he was communicating with me and telling me that he was going to communicate with me somehow. And it was really trippy because I was sure about it. That's what's so weird. And I wasn't really open-minded about it, honestly, and then I was sure about it.
And then I just wanted to catch our listeners up before. I didn't mean to cut you off. But for those who missed the show with Kevin Estrella it's probably been, 3 weeks or a month ago now. On Monday night, he was on and he was explaining how he had contact with these aliens called the Ponti from the mountain Sandia?
Sandia.
Sandia Mountain,
Yes.
that's right. And it's just, I think, east of Albuquerque. It's near Albuquerque. And so that's when I had explained to you guys that he talked about this website. It's called Official First Contact. Is it .com or .org? It might be. You can. There's a link to that website from that video, the Paranormal Frequencies with Kevin Estrella. There's a link in that description, but I'm pretty sure it's Official First Contact. Either .com or .org, but you go there and there's this telepathy 101 course that you can take that I've been talking about wanting to do a like a PowerPoint presentation on it and everything. So anyway, this is he showed a number of aliens that he had been in contact with. One of them's name was Radar, and so that's the radar that you're talking about, Sherry, right?
Yes, and then I started having these weird little things happen. Like, okay, this is gonna sound so dumb when I tell you all this, but so when I was in like 6th grade, there was like a group of people around, and there was like this 8th grade boy, and what he was doing was he was telling a joke that wasn't real to see if people laughed and then make fun of them if they did, right? Mm-hmm. And so he tells me this joke, and it went something like this: that there was 2 polar bears floating down the river on some ice, and the baby polar bear yelled to the mother polar bear, "Radar, radar, radar." Well, then I laughed, and then he's like, "You're stupid. That's not even a joke." And ha ha ha, the joke was on me, right? Well, so this alien like tells me straight up that this was done way back then, so that I would have like confirmation now of this. And it is odd that that was the choice of words. Like, why would they yell radar, 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 right? Okay. So that happened. And then I had this another time, this like a couple of days later or something, he had me know that my grandfather had a bunch of army clothes in the garage in these big barrels. And like my sister and my cousin would play MASH all the time, and they would be like Major Houlihan and Hawkeye Pierce. And if I wanted to play, I had to be Radar, and I would like cry and stuff. And so I always had to be Radar. And he said that that also was like a confirmation of this time now that I was gonna, I guess, you know, like encounter him or whatever. So that's interesting. And then I was like on YouTube, and I had like a bunch of recommended videos, and there was a lyric video that was the song Radar Love, which is, if you listen to that song, it's actually about telepathy, which is really cool because
Dustin the One just put Radar Love in the that's funny.
Yeah. Well,
Sorry.
Anyway, so no. And I just thought it was really neat because I don't know what else is going to come of it. But I had one more thing happen. I was getting some pictures ready for the show with Suso. And I was doing all these summer of me for like Mandela effect things. Mm-hmm. And then they had this one great big one with radar on it. And then I know that doesn't from MASH, but right. That doesn't sound like it's something, but it was like the feeling I got when I don't know. But right. Evidently I'm going to hear some more from this little alien. And he is cool because he is the one that like plays guitar and stuff, and he wears clothes like Ronnie James Dio and stuff. So I mean, at least he's a cool alien. If I'm gonna communicate with one, that's what I'd say.
Wait, okay, now so, Radar. Just to back up to Kevin Estrella, he was saying Radar was the one that was more of the jokester of the group, or what? Or he liked to fly his ships fast, or something. What was it that he said about him?
Now that's interesting because he was racing with another alien in my. I didn't actually remember him saying that, but in my dream, and he wrecked into the fence, and the other one flew over it. So.
Oh, he wrecked. Yeah, I think he said something like he was the daredevil of the bunch or something. I'm pretty sure. He talked about so many. I could be mixing it up, but he did say that about one of them. I thought it was Radar though. That Radar was the daredevil.
So weird. Because I'm having that dream, and then I just had this knowing that it was him, even though he wasn't, like, in the dream.
Was he the one that crashed into the fence?
Yeah, and it's like, why would I even think of I mean, I wouldn't have even thought of him ordinarily because it was just orbs, you know.
Right.
And I don't know. It was
That's
just,
trippy.
it was really cool. I'm sure there might be something more later, but for right now, that's kind of all I got. But I have a Michael Jackson neat thing that happened that I want to tell
I love the
real
Michael
quick. And
Jackson stuff. Let's hear it.
this is so cool because I was like, okay. So I was talking to Darby, and I was mentioning some colors, and I said, Christmas red, Christmas green, hot pink, baby blue. That's what I said. Okay. So I had to go to the doctor, and there was this old lady outside, and she couldn't walk well. And so I was helping her to walk in with her cane. So her cane was on one side, and I was on the other side. And so it took me, like, forever to get her walked in there, and there was, like, an elevator and all this. And then I just had to take her a long way. And then she gets up there to sign in, and then they ask for her insurance card, and she didn't have it. And so she's like, baby, will you go get it in my car? And I was like, sure, you know. And so she said she has a white Honda. And so I'm like, you know, everybody has a white Honda. I have a white Honda, and I can't ever find my car. Since I got rid of my pink car, you know, it was like it's a white car, so it was like the parking lot's full. So she says the license plate has 999 on it. So I'm like, okay, well, that gives me something to look for. So then she says this, now listen good. She says that there was a Christmas bag in her back seat that was red and green. And inside of it, was a blue purse with a hot pink wallet. And I was tripping out because I had just said those colors to Darby. So that was weird. And so I go down to her car, and I get out her insurance card, and I come back upstairs, and then I look down, and right when I look down, her hand is on her cane, and she has on this glove, and she, like, turns around, and she winks at me, and she's like, you truly are an angel. But it was the way she said it, and it was just really weird, the whole thing, and I had that feeling, and I thought it was really neat, and it was so Michael Jackson-y, and I don't know. I know that might sound dumb to some people, but
Well, with all the other stuff that you've talked about, it's just another crazy synchronicity in many, you know.
Yeah, another one of those things. But it made my day, and I was like high for like 3 days afterwards. Cause I like when those things happen. Because then I looked up the 999 meaning. That was on the license plate,
Mm-hmm.
and it just said stuff like, you know, like new beginnings, and I don't know. If you look it up, you'll find it. It said a lot of nice things, and it just, you know, was like a little shout out from the universe, I guess, you know. So that was pretty cool. But then the biggest thing that happened to me recently was the other day whenever Candace Craw Goldman was on, and they were talking about QHHT and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And of course I've had some BQH sessions and stuff, and you know, it's like kind of a big deal to like process them, because afterwards you keep having stuff come up and everything. And anyway, so I get this telepathic message from her, but I can hear her like in my head, and she says, trust the process and it's okay. And I could feel someone like touch my hair, and it was so real, and it was so beautiful and stuff. And then like I got like this download, and I actually had wrote it down on a paper, and I went to grab it before I called you, and then I grabbed the wrong paper that has like questions for a future guest on it, on that.
Oh no.
But anyway, it was like, it was stuff, you know, mostly like about living in the now, and just, I don't know, just I guess stuff that I needed to hear and everything. But it was really remarkable to me, and I don't know, it felt good to like hear from her, because, you know, I'm not really like a BQH doer or whatever. And, I mean, I do them, but I don't do them to people. And I just thought, you know, I've heard from her before, because around 2012, I was just waking up, and I was studying a lot of aliens and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and I was wondering if they were like physical or like non-physical beings. And what she said was there was words used that I wouldn't use. Like, she said that they focus themselves to a certain frequency or something, where I would have, back then I'd have said like dimension, and I wouldn't have said focus. Anyway, she basically said that they were like interdimensional and answered my question. And she was around Robert Monroe during that conversation. They were like together. But I've always considered them kind of like both on this little council that I have of, I guess like helpers or something.
Yeah, like
But
Ascendant
anyway,
Master helpers. And Dolores
I guess.
has doing that a lot. She comes up a lot in a lot of different places, I've noticed.
Yeah, well, I do know that I used to try to watch her stuff, and I would like cry. And so in my first BQH that I did, I had Amber ask me why, because she kind of reminded me of my grandmother and stuff like that. And she basically said that we had past lives together, but that mostly it was just that she reminded me of my grandmother. And that
You're talking about
hadn't been
Dolores
around
Cannon,
in
right?
other lives. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So anyway, so that was my stories that I wanted to tell y'all, and I wish I had my paper, but I don't. I grabbed the wrong one.
Oh, no problem at
So
all.
how have you been? Good?
Yeah, I've been doing good. Just got back today from getting out in nature, enjoying the weather, and man, I love this time of the year. It just feels so good.
Yeah, it's nice out. It's so nice.
Been some crazy weather around different places, though. A lot of heavy rains and flooding, and so I guess it's not pretty for everybody, but at least it's warming up.
Yeah, they said a tornado had took out something around here. That, like, I mean, there was some people hurt and everything, like the night before last. But anyway, it's been pretty ever since. So
No complaining, huh?
no complaining. So, is there anyone else calling in, or?
No, not yet. I
Well,
can go to a
someone
little
out
Wingmakers music if you gotta go, though. But yeah, we can have
in.
somebody calling.
Well, I didn't really need to go. I just was done telling my little stories. Did anybody say anything about them? I can't read and talk at the same time.
Let's see. We all agree you are an angel.
Aw, that's so sweet. I don't know about that, y'all.
Let's see. Oh, your mom says, I know she's my angel.
Aw, Sandy.
Let's see.
I was just curious about, like, it's weird that telepathy stuff, because it's like you have this knowing that, I mean, I know most people know my Eric story. I could tell that really quick, but that was another time that I'd heard somebody, and I had knowings after that. But it's like you're 150% sure that you're getting this information. That's how it's so weird, because you're more sure about it than like something you read or saw, and it's a certainty.
Yeah. Well, I think one thing I'd like to back up to, if you don't mind, is when you were talking about things from your past having significant meaning now in like a really weird, I don't know, coincidental way. Of course, synchronistic way, I would rather say. But these echoes of the past, I don't remember. I know we've kind of talked about it a little bit before. I don't know if it was on the air or before we went live, but these instances where things that didn't really, I mean, you remember them real well. Like I'll use the example of the book I had when I was, I don't know, 4 or 5. My mom would read me, called Milton the Early Riser, and it was about this panda bear that gets up early, and he's like trying to wake all the other animals up, and that's pretty much the story. Well, that was like an archetype for my real awakening, where I started this channel and everything, and it was like, I don't know why I remember that book so well, but I remembered the title. I remembered the general story of it all because, my mom would read it a bunch to me, but I didn't really know it would have the significance it had later in life. And I don't really think that's an accident. I think that was, because that's not the only thing. There's a number of things like that. And I've even talked about the never-ending story was this huge realization of, I think that's a huge information drop there when you really look into that, about how that ties into what we're looking at now and everything. So all of these things that seem to happen in the past, and they're really sort of starting to surface now. I'm wondering if other people are experiencing that, because that seems to be sort of a breakdown with time. And how they say time isn't real and it's not really linear. We experience it that way. And it seems like at some point, especially when we look at the Mandela effect, that perhaps things were inserted a certain way to just, like that book, for instance, maybe it was inserted way later, but to me, it was this important childhood book, and they made sure it would stick in my mind. The game makers, or whatever you want to call it, our ascended masters, higher selves, God, Holy Spirit, whatever. Someone, a benevolent force, sort of, keeping you on track, and you experience things in a linear fashion, but maybe that was all inserted and backlogged, if you will. What do you think about that?
All I know is that it's so weird because it just seems like now, like in this time period, like past year or something, it just seems like I've had all kind of these flood in, and it's like all kind of stuff from my way past to my middle past and recent past was all pointing at like now.
Yeah.
So that's interesting to, if it's talking about like some kind of shift or what it is talking about, because it's weird how it like all relates to right now,
Yeah.
There's got to be some kind of meaning to that.
It really is strange. Yeah, Dustin's saying that he has the echoes from the past a lot lately, too. So I'm just wondering if this is something more and more people are experiencing, because I have been noticing these sort of strange, and I think this sort of is connected with the feelings of nostalgia that I've talked about, these overwhelming feelings of nostalgia or deja vu. I think, these kind of are all time related in a way. And I'm wondering if, because they give you this sense of going back to another time, or time glitching, if it's the deja vu thing, or just what we were talking about, these echoes from the past. So when I think about that, and then I think about the fact that they say, well, we're going from third density or third dimension to the fifth, and fourth is the time, and all of this. I don't know. It just makes me wonder, I never stop wondering. I don't know what you think about that.
It's just really, really interesting that it's like miracles or something, because it's just all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, this was pointing to this, or this was pointing to that, and it's all right now. And I don't know. It's really neat. I hope someone else can call in and tell about something like that happening, because I'm sure that there's other people experiencing this.
Well, I think with just this whole transition happening and wondering how things are going to be playing out, and more just feeling like, that we all should individually kind of be the star of our own show, so to speak, doing the best we can, and all of that good stuff. I just think I've been really thinking about the idea of NPCs and everything, and wondering if, like, other people are NPCs to our story in our game that we're playing, but we're NPCs to other people in their game, because, we've all been triggered and responded in a certain way to people and been their adversary for the day, so to speak, whether it was you cutting someone off one day or getting cut off or whatever. We play these games. So I was thinking about this whole idea with NPCs is maybe it's an individual perspective thing, Maybe it's not quite like it's just a soulless one or whatever. Although I can totally see how that seems like it fits sometimes. I don't know. Have we even talked about the NPC thing?
Not a lot, but I mean, I can tell you this. It definitely seems like the universe has been talking to me, because just like, I was getting all these signs that, like, you know, that we are creating our own reality and everything, and then starting to have things like work out like how I think, and even if I was thinking of something bad, like not real bad, but kind of bad, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and then all of a sudden it would like show up, and then
Yeah.
and then I'm like, wait, what? And so I've been trying to be a little more careful about what I think about. But anyway, so I realized this, and I look up, and there's this billboard for a store in our town that was new that I hadn't heard of yet, and it was called It's All About You. And so I'm like, wow, you know, I mean, it's, and that wasn't the only one. There was like more of them leading up to that. You know, it's kind of like in Bruce Almighty, whenever he's like screaming out to God for a sign, and then that truck cuts him off, and it's full of like signs like that are going to the dump or something. It's so funny. Like they are there, but you just have to look for them. And when you start looking for them, then you see them. And then when you start seeing them, you start seeing more and more and more, to where it almost becomes like a lucid dream or something. You know, it
Yeah.
makes you wonder which one is the dream, if it's when we're dreaming or now, you know?
Yeah, we're all going to need to get one of those totems like in that movie Inception that they use to see if they're dreaming. But yeah, the whole sign thing. The whole sign thing, I think, I totally agree. Like once you start opening your eyes to it, the more you see. And I think many times that it can be right in front of us, and we just miss it, you know, because we're not looking. And I think a lot of that's, you know, the whole idea of being in the moment. I think many times we're thinking of the past or the future so much in the moment instead of being right in the moment that, I don't know, I just see so many things stemming from that, from, you know, misplacing your car keys to not seeing these miraculous signs right in front of you, you know what I mean? Just so many things can stem from not being in the moment.
Yeah, and like another thing that I kind of struggled with was having all these synchronicities, and I was at a place where I would wonder, like, well, is this coming from a bad source or a positive one? But I have definitely learned that I do have good discernment, and which is surprising, but I really do. I do, and so I can tell that when there's good ones and when there's bad ones, and now I feel like maybe that I got the bad ones so that I would know the difference.
Right. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that whole idea of fear or love, if you get a synchronicity that sort of, I don't know, makes you feel fearful or whatever, I would question the source, because I think they can come either way, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the NPC thing, I haven't really looked a lot into. I mean, I'm open-minded about it or whatever.
Yeah.
But you know, it's interesting for sure. You know, I just need to study it more, kind of.
I kind of thought it was cool that to view, like if you look at the cosmic agency's information on the NPCs, an NPC today might be a real person tomorrow, and vice versa. That these are basically Earth suits that, you know, consciousness can inhabit or not, and that they can be ran by the Matrix when no one's running them, sort of like on autopilot or whatever. But I think even and so they sort of become these portals, right? That angelic beings can come in and help someone out, or, you know, just hop in to take care of something. And it could work both ways. It could be negative and positive. But I think it also works that way with real people. You know, just people that are, you know, maybe they are whispered something in their ear and they repeat it, or something along those lines, and it's just something that person really needs to hear. I think it can be positive or negative, but I kind of see it more like from the higher realm or higher perspective. I see it more like, you know, you've got the adversary that's there to help. You know, it's basically contrast or friction. It's there to help you experience things and grow more, and that we're not truly in danger, or we're not truly hunted down, and we're not truly, you know, no one's after us or out to get us, but that's just part of the illusion of this whole thing, you know, and escaping it and rising above all of that. So anyway, yeah, that's sort of my idea with that whole thing. It's like you got the architect that's like, designing the game, and you got these extras that are there, but we can't see them. They're like higher dimensional beings, and they're like sort of the adjustment bureau. They're keeping you on track. They're sending you things that, we might take them as negative, but they just help us grow, or they help teach us something. And I don't know, I just see it as this big production going on where everything's orchestrated and all the signs are there all the time if you're alert and aware and in the moment to see them.
Yeah, it's so interesting. But
Exciting
I know
times.
I do think they have like walk-ins and stuff like that too.
Oh, yeah.
And another thing that I was going to mention is when you talk about like maybe a shell-like person that doesn't have anything operating it, it's very interesting when you start looking at things. And I've looked at recently like dementia, and with me working psych units, and some people that just like, they just randomly like babble and stuff like that, and it's just like you look at them and they just like aren't there anymore, and that before in the past that they were like this functioning person that was like either this lawyer or whatever, and I just really have this feeling in my gut that they've like checked out already. I don't think that you necessarily have to die to leave this realm,
Mm-hmm.
I think there's certain circumstances, and and one thing that comes to mind, I'm sure everybody will be like, oh, she already said this, but it is interesting because when I was at the Monroe Institute, my roommate Monica, who I love so much, she was there because she goes out of body every night and hangs out with her mom who has dementia, and her dad is taking care of her, and she's like, diapered and unresponsive and everything like that. And so she asked her mom out of body why, if she's over there permanently now, why is her body still here? And she said that it was a soul contract, and it was something that her father was, supposed to experience, was taking care of her like that. But she was already gone and on the other side living, and luckily Monica had the skills and the ability to go out of body and hang out with her at night, and just have all kind of like adventures and spend time in other realms. And she writes it down in her little journal, and I mean, to read it, it's just fascinating. I mean, it's really cool, but it just makes you think, though, because everybody thinks that you got to die to move on to another realm, but I don't necessarily believe that anymore.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think some people, we often hear about people self-terminating, but I think there's a different type of checking out where the body's left here and they're just gone. They decided they're done and they're sort of left on autopilot. I could totally see something like that happening.
Yeah, it's so interesting,
Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of times when you see people and they seem a lot different, maybe something like that happened. Or if they're different for a while and come back, maybe they were sent off to one of those healing domes Angela talks about or something to, be taken care of and then brought back. And then we never know the difference because they're sort of left on autopilot. You know what I mean? We have no idea what's going on behind the curtain.
Well, I don't know. Do you have another caller yet?
Let me see here. No, nobody's calling in yet. I did have something I wanted to talk to you about, but I can't. Oh, okay. Something I wanted to bring up while we're waiting on another caller anyway. I don't know how much of this you can talk about, but I noticed in the chat the other night, and I meant to bring this up, and I totally forgot about it before the show was over, but you were talking about one of somebody you knew had sparkles in their hands or something. Are you able to talk about that? Or?
Yeah, I think so. If I don't say any names or where, is that I found it so odd and so interesting, and so let's just say that there was a patient admitted that was claiming that they were having sparkles on their hand, and the doctors didn't believe them, and they were like, well, get a flashlight, and you'll see it and all that. But anyway, they got physician emergency commitment, and I'm just saying that it makes me feel like a lot of people go to the doctor with ascension symptoms, they might take it wrong or something. They don't all know about it, and it puts people like me in a really weird place. I try to give people like that a little bit of sneaky reassurance, and just hope for the best because, I don't want them like going to the doctor and being like, oh, well, she said this, that, and the other. And, because then they'll think that you're like encouraging delusions is what that would be called,
Yeah, that actually happened with another guy that was talking about, the patients that were hearing voices. And when he was trying to just collect data about what those voices were saying and figure out if it was really in their head or if it was something real, the superiors found out about it and put a stop to it because they said exactly what you're saying, that he was encouraging the delusions in their mind.
Yeah, it's, there's just a fine line there. So I just try to, love. I kind of try to, like, I know it sounds silly, but do what I can, like, just with energy, like send them, like, love and light or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then try to do, like, a meditation for them or something because it's just weird. There's not really a lot of education out there about it unless they're watching your channel.
Well, thank you. Well, you're on here spilling the information. So, but yeah, I wanted to even just bring that up right there because, a lot of times you view the healthcare system or the mental health care system as being these people that aren't really awake to, metaphysical things going on. So it's really, actually, it's quite encouraging that you're there and you're working there. And I would say that, it's no accident that you're there doing what you're doing. The angel you are.
Well, I try. I will tell you this, that I found it really interesting right away that a lot of those patients, it's always spiritual. I mean, there's either an entity that's after them or going to get them, that's always around them, or they are Jesus, or they are Satan, or whatever. And it's just it's something, and you have to be really patient because they say stuff to you, and can be kind of scary late at night. You're going in the room. But
sure, but
it's definitely interesting.
So I wanted to back up and just really point out the fact that this person came in. They said that they had sparkles or glitter on their hands, and they were acting like the guy was crazy. And he's like, "No, just get a flashlight and look at it." And they didn't even consider it or get a flashlight and examine his hands closely or anything. Correct?
Right.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
That's the whole thing. That's the whole reason. And I mean, I have to say too much. I'm just saying that it's sad for that person because, now they got like psychiatric history and they're probably on all kind of medicine and,
Right. Because they were going through this transformation. T. Taylor's actually in the chat right now, and it's, I don't know how many other people. I've noticed it in the sunlight, the sparkles, and, that's crazy to think first off, I think if something like that's happening, probably shouldn't go to your doctor and start talking about it, until it's really obvious, maybe.
I just, hopefully in the future there'll be more people like people will be going to people like us go for stuff
Reiki.
instead of doctor right away. I'm not saying that I'm against it. I mean, I'm a nurse, but I just have to say that, my foundation's been shaken a little bit. And then, like you start looking at stuff like pharmakia and I know I've probably said this before on here, but like there's been medicine names that just trip me out, like that diabetes medicine that came out. It was called Invokina or whatever. And I was like, I would never take a medicine that had the word invoke in it. I just wouldn't. It just trips me out, some of the names. There was some more like that too, but anyway.
Yeah, and I agree with Leland, who says to avoid doctors at all costs with this stuff. And I won't go to the doctor unless it's like a trauma, car accident, fall down some steps, cut my head open, something like that, and I need stitches. But if it's sparkles in the hand or, I don't know, strange symptoms, I can just, Google that or consult the community and see who else is having those symptoms, because I think from what I hear, the people that do go to the doctors are told nothing's wrong with them, But of course,
Yeah.
I'm not offering any kind of medical advice or whatever I need to say to get out of hot water there.
I know there's, if you look up, because I've looked at stuff like, seeing blue orbs and stuff, and I'm looking for the spiritual stuff on it. This is way back when I first started. And the first thing that comes up is stuff like macular degeneration and, all these just horrible glaucoma and ruptured whatever, and you're just like, wait, I was looking. So now I know to put spiritual in that search because, if not, they will find a diagnosis that has it. I don't trust me because I've accidentally looked up, all kind of stuff, just like seeing certain geometrical shapes and stuff like that, and it will hit you back on the search engine that there is something wrong with you medically.
Yeah, there's nothing to freak you out more than just to start typing in some symptoms that you're having into the search engine and seeing what pops up.
Yeah, right. And I don't know about everybody else, but like I went through a lot of dizziness recently, and I mean, I'm just gonna say it because I know we're talking about doctors and all, but I definitely went because they have a stomach medicine that like helps with dizziness. It's called Leptin. They give it to babies for colic, but it'll like knock out dizziness. But I had it so bad that I was like tipping over. I mean, I had to do something because I had to work and drive, and you take that and it'll last for like 8 hours, but it was really bad. And I noticed I was having that off and on, but thought it was something medical, but it seems to be more related to the stuff like the ringing in the ears and all that. And then I still deal with like nausea and the headaches off and on.
I've been having the headaches and the ringing in the ears. Guess what Atsuko just said? She says, I scraped my head the other day. It didn't bleed much. I washed it and I saw tiny sparkles inside the cut. Are you listening to this, T? That's crazy.
Wow.
That's wild. That's wild stuff. So we're changing and we don't even realize it. I've been noticing colors are a lot more vivid. I don't know, I think it's our eyes are being, I don't know, just maybe the colors are, I don't know, maybe the range of what we can see is broadening, is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, and I, when my channel got deleted, I had made some videos about seeing, like, I saw, like, a translucent door outside. I saw, like, a ring that looked like a portal. It looked metal. It looked gold, but it was, like, translucent, kind of. And I saw some numbers that were, like, ones and zeros, like, out in the yard that were, like, a foot tall. See, if I went into the emergency room and told them this, I'd be patient at my own hospital. But yeah, I mean, there's just a lot going on that's happening to people, and it's just really sad that I just wish there was more doctors that were aware of some of these things. That's all,
Yeah, but would they even say anything? My, I don't know. It just seems like anybody I talk to that's a professional, from a doctor or even a professor or something along those lines, they just don't really want to say much about anything that's fringe, beyond the fringe.
And, and you have to, like, be kind of anonymous about it, It's just like, now I will tell you this, though. I have gotten both of my places of work, I've been there quite some time, and they've gotten really comfortable with, like, me. I've noticed, like, I deal with a lot of, like, addicts and stuff, and when they're coming off of medicine, they start to have, like, very lucid dreams, and a lot of them are negative and stuff, and I have been able to, I haven't been, like, condemned for, and it's been, like they've said, well, maybe you should go talk to Sherry about this or whatever, because, like, I kind of say that and stuff, and I don't know if I told on here before or not, but I had this guy recently that went into a lucid dream after stuff I told him how to do it and everything, and he had a girlfriend when he was like 16 that died, and he saw her on the other side and said something like, what are you doing, in my reality? And she said something like, I'm not in your reality. You're in my You're in, my realm or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And, they had a conversation and they hugged and all this stuff. But what was really cool about this is that when he woke up, he was so happy, and he told me about it right away because I was there right when he woke up, and he was like tearful and everything and emotional. So he comes running in there later. He had called his mom to tell her about it.
Mm-hmm.
And before he could tell her about it, she was like, guess who I ran into at the store? And it was this girl that died's mother, who she had not seen since the funeral back when he was like 16 and he was like 30-something now. So that was a really neat story.
Oh, wow. Yeah, we've got other people that's been experiencing the dizziness, headaches. People saying they wouldn't talk to their doctor. I would totally agree. Like, I remember going to my doctor after the Mandela effect, and I wanted so badly to know if anybody else had, but I didn't want, if I could have asked them as, off the record, not as a patient, I certainly would have, but not as a patient, because that would definitely go into the chart, That was my ADHD doctor, so that's, his field to see if, but
I
of
had
course.
I had one doctor that was really cool one time that told me to read My Big Toe,
Tom Campbell?
Campbell. So, I mean, like, he was really open-minded, and,
That's cool. Yeah, I like Tom Campbell.
Yeah, he also told Darby that when she was, like, in second grade, that she had a little boyfriend that she broke up with him because he was eating his boogers, and he said, well, that he has good immunity. And he was trying to explain to me and Darby why, and we were just like, what is going on here? This guy is like...
He was talking about eating boogers, like being a good thing?
Yes. He was so weird. Anyway. But he was very open-minded. But, I mean, Darby will never, ever forget that. Never forget this doctor. Oh, my God.
That's pretty weird.
Santa Claus. He looked just like Santa Claus, by the way. But anyway, that's a whole nother subject.
What? Well, I don't know. Was the boogers a vaccine replacement, or is this in addition to that?
I have no idea. That I was just like, what? Why are you telling my child this? But she just had to. I guess he asked her if she had a boyfriend, and she was like, no, I broke up with my boyfriend because, what he was doing or whatever.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
There's that.
So yeah, he's really open-minded then. That's cool.
Yeah, he was interesting. But I was going to say that Robert Monroe actually, when he started having his out-of-body experiences, he thought that he was dying because, you would.
Yeah.
Like the first one that he had, he was like, he saw a fountain coming out of the floor, and then when he looked real good, it was the ceiling fan, and he was like, with his back up against the ceiling looking down, and then he was like, who's in bed sleeping with my wife? And so he like floats there, and it was himself. So anyway, he goes to the doctor and thinks that something's wrong with him, and they were doing the same thing to him, just telling him that it was nothing, that he was probably stressed out and all this. But finally, he had a doctor that was a friend that he like talked to him aside, and he asked that doctor what he should do, and the doctor said that he should go to Tibet and meditate for like about 10 or 12 years because he was probably having out-of-body experiences, and that's usually what you had to do to have something like that happen. But he just had them happen spontaneously from using the binaural beats, that he was using to try to like promote sleep and let people learn while they were sleeping.
That is so freaking cool because just the whole, I'm watching the chat here too. They're talking about different supplements, colloidal silver. I've actually been looking into that myself too. I haven't tried anything. I did see some nightmare pictures where they took too much and they were all blue and stuff. Did you see that?
The colloidal silver, though, is a good antibiotic. Like, that's even actually in that silver, is it Silvadine green? That's for, like, burns and stuff.
Yeah, I think it's
They
just
do
people that do
that.
too much. I wasn't trying to scare anybody off from doing it. I'm just saying
Oh
you
no,
can.
you were serious? They really turned blue?
Or kind of silver, yeah. Yeah, just,
Wow.
I don't,
Like the Tin Man with
like
their
the Blue
mom.
Man Group.
Oh wow. Man.
That's where the Smurfs come from. I'm just kidding. Okay, so I wanted to talk to you about Mandela effects because,
Oh cool.
yeah,
That's my
yeah, because
favorite.
I heard from Sandra and Alan, the Twin Flame Divine Fire radio people, and they were telling me about one, and then, of course, Kelly, who we had on, you and I, Sherry, I don't know, probably a couple months ago, he was telling me that there was another change with the village people. So I wanted to bring it up. I thought it'd be fun for the chat to talk about how many village people they remember in the, YMCA song. Think about the videos for YMCA and tell me what you think the number of people in that group is. And I'll
I
give them a
would
second
say-
to type it in.
Oh, do you want me to say what I think or no?
Let's give them just a second here. Okay, did you already know about the first one? There was 2 shifts to this. So when I first heard about this like a year ago, what did you think first? Sure.
I've always thought that there's 4 because they have like an Indian man and a guy in a hard hat, and they spell out YMCA, and there's 4 of them, and each one does their own letter. There
Right.
was 4.
Yeah, exactly.
100%.
Now that's what you're talking about right now is the very discussion that you could see people having back when I first noticed the first shift. And the shift originally, people were saying that it started with 4. They remembered 4, but at that time there was 5. So there was 5 different ones. And then Kelly just hits me up, sends me this email, and he's like, there's 6 village people now. I'm like, no way. Because I had looked into it and was trying to figure out if it was 4 or 5. Now there's 6. I know that wasn't the debate because of the YMCA thing you were just talking about. Because people remember them doing YMCA and each person had their own letter. And now there was 5 and now there's 6. So it's just crazy. I don't know what you guys remember.
Like it's got 2 exclamation points. But while they're typing, I will say this, that someone had made a video, and I actually tried to find it like within the last 24 hours, and I couldn't find it, that the Jackson 5 like had 6 members. And like I remember when I started studying it, I was looking it up, and there was this 6th Jackson that was like younger than Michael, and he was like, he'd be stuck in the pictures all weird, like it looked like he was literally photoshopped into them,
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it could happen is what I'm trying to say, because I really studied that one in depth, and it looked like there was one added, and so I guess it could happen to the village people too.
Yeah, that Jackson 5 one tripped me out because you see Jackson 5, it still says Jackson 5, but there's 6 of them there. Yeah, and that's new to me. There was always just 5.
So strange.
Oh, it's slipping my mind. I'm trying to remember the one Sandra told me about now. Gosh.
Um,
I thought did I send you an email about that?
I think my brain, because we were talking about the next show guy, and was it, wait, remember there was
It
one.
was something a little bit
It was
before.
about I think it was like the 7 wonders of the world.
Oh, yeah, the 7 wonders of the world. Yeah, I was trying to ask you about what you remembered, because this isn't the first time this has come up either. So the first time the whole 7 wonders of the world thing, I think they were talking about Victoria Falls in Zimbabwe being in there, and they'd never even heard of it. But I just happened to have done a website for the ambassador to Zimbabwe back in the early 2000s, and that's when I first heard about it. So I'm not saying it's not a Mandela effect. I'm just saying that I heard about it when I was in that website. And So now, so the Mandela effect with that is now that there's not just 7 wonders of the world. There's, what is it, like 10 or, I forgot what she said, but it was way more than what she remembered. And I think the Aurora Borealis was one of them. So I don't know.
That's
I don't know.
thing right there. That's really interesting.
Yeah, so I can't be sure of it myself because I didn't look into it that deeply, but it wouldn't surprise me. But I'd like to get some feedback on what you guys think. They're still talking about YMCA. 6 guys, yep. Patty just watched it. That's crazy, isn't it?
Well, what were they doing? Just standing on each end whenever YMCA was filmed?
Yeah, they were like exclamation points or something. I'm just playing. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how to do that. Maybe the ones on the end do all of the letters really fast.
Did they even have another song than that? Like,
yeah, they had. Let's see. I think they had one other really popular song. Gosh, I'm trying to remember. Oh, it was the military one in the Navy or whatever song.
Oh yes, in the Navy.
In the Navy, yeah. That's the 2 I know about. YMCA and in the Navy. Oh, okay. So I forgot to. I didn't want to interrupt you earlier, but I looked this up. The meaning of 999 when it comes to love. The meaning of number 999 is completion. The number 9 is the last single digit. So when you see this number everywhere you go, something in your life is ending or will be completed soon. This can be good news or bad news. I think it's good news no matter what. When it comes to love.
Well,
interesting.
That's interesting. Yeah. They had all different sections on the one that I found. It had like what it meant regarding each subject or something.
Yeah.
So
I wonder how they do that. Do people just, I don't know, sit down and write all the numbers down and say, yeah, I think this one means this? I mean, I don't know. It just, how is there all these different sources on what it means? I just wonder how that comes about. Probably channeled or something, huh?
I don't know, but I get like 1111 all the time, 444, and 222 all the time.
I actually pulled up at 2:22 today. Looked at the time. It's not the first time that's happened to. Yeah, I love that. I love all the synchronicities. I've been getting like double synchronicities. I've been getting with music quite a bit, where something that come on that's going right along with what's happening, and I talked about that before. So I don't know. Yeah, it's really cool though. Let's see. Ronnie says, I just recall a lot of guys on stage.
Tell Ronnie to call in. I want to hear her voice.
Hey, I can always dip out and play some Wingmakers material until someone else calls in if you got to go. Did you? Well, you probably just getting off work.
I just, don't really have a lot to say, But somebody needs to call in, like we have Ronnie call in.
It's the Friday night Paranormal Frequencies love stream. Yeah. Yeah. Why don't you call in, T. Taylor, if you like?
Yeah. Call in.
Oh, Jane's saying, just looked at the video of YMCA, and the new guy is an Army guy. Never seen him before. Wow. That's weird. Hey, T. Taylor says she can call in like 10 minutes.
Cool, that's good. Yeah, Jane was telling me that there is she actually showed me a channel of this lady who's like grandchildren that interact with Bigfoot. So I messaged her to try to get her on the show, and I think I told them already about the reincarnation guy that I'm getting on.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and then we have Curtis books from the Swedenborg Foundation from the channel Off the Left Eye. Everybody loves Curtis.
Curtis,
So
yeah.
he's going to be on also. And it's just some exciting, we got some exciting things lined up.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, Curtis, I was watching a documentary with him in it not too long ago. I think it was about angels and
Oh, yeah, he's
something sort of
great.
metaphysical. Yeah, I like Curtis, though. He's cool. What is this channel again? Swedenborg?
It's called Off the Left Eye, which is why
It
when that
is?
stuff was coming up with April the other night about the eye in the Bible, and
Yeah.
I was looking up a scripture that I couldn't find that was I knew was there that said, I really don't want to get into it. It was like I knew it was there, and then it wasn't, and then I found it in one Bible, and a certain version. And anyway, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make sure that he explains to you why it's called Off the Left Eye. But I know it has something to do with like the scales being removed, like from the eye, and really interesting. We'll bring that up for sure. The channel name meaning.
Yeah, in fact, in that documentary I saw Curtis, and he was talking about Swedenborg the whole time. I thought that was the channel name. Isn't that like the intro and stuff says it, or off the...
Well, what it is that the channel is called Off the Left Eye, but what they do is they're breaking down. Swedenborg has it's either Y17 comes to mind. I don't know. It may be far more than that. Books written like Heaven and Hell and stuff like that. And what it is he was an avid out of body experiencer, but he was kind of like a mystic because he had interactions with like angels and Jesus and things in the afterlife realm. And he would come back and he would write about it. But he has a lot of stuff on like how spirits interact with us on a daily basis, kind of like what you were saying about like if maybe if a spirit kind of whispers in the ear and makes someone say something negative or think something negative or whatever. That kind of stuff comes up, and talk about like auras being infiltrated and stuff like that. So it was pretty deep stuff for the time because there wasn't like books written on metaphysics, like that. This guy was really early because I mean we're talking like the late 1700s or the early 1800s when he was it's older, far older than any of the other out of body people that I've studied, and his information is just amazing and phenomenal, and you can just tell that he's getting it from a divine source, some sort.
Isn't he on there with another guy, or is that just his show? Seems like there's two people on there.
There's another guy on there. There's a guy on there, and there's a woman on there, and then and then there's a young girl, and then so everyone knows that I love Marilyn Hughes, and she wrote Michael Jackson, The Afterlife Experiences, book 1, 2, and 3, which was a synchronicity for me, and she actually has been asked by the Swedenborg Foundation to be consulted on certain subjects on the Off the Left Eye YouTube channel because she doesn't like to say it, but she really is like a mystic. She has encounters with different like prophets, aesthetics, stuff like that from the old days and everything like that. But then all of a sudden she has Michael Jackson come into her experience, which fascinated me. But come to find out, she says she didn't know why at the time. In fact, she actually didn't. She was like, no, this sounds like you probably have your own agenda. I'm not, down with this or whatever. And so she like went and got approval from Jesus himself to like interact with Michael Jackson and got messages from him and says that she found out later what it was, and that it's actually an example of a more modern day afterlife experience because all of the other ones that she had were like people from the Bible and stuff. So I mean, he was doing that. He was basically sharing his journey, the struggles and everything in the afterlife to like help people today, because it's more modern, and that's why she got the information. That's what it was all about. But she didn't know at the time when she wrote the book. This has just been revealed to her recently. But anyway, she speaks on the Swedenborg channel about certain spiritual things that she found out, like as a consultant. So, like, when I have a question, for instance, like, say this, like, say you're married to someone and then they die and you marry somebody else, and then the question is, okay, well, when I die, I love both these people. Who am I with? You know, well, that's what Marilyn would be on there to answer. She has all the answers like that, and I've learned so much from her, and she's amazing. You know,
Do you remember how she answered that question by any chance?
Well, basically, it's like, okay, like, you know, say that the first husband, you know, has the afterlife experience or whatever, and basically he'd be in that experience with her, okay, but then she could be, like, in the other experience, the other one too at the same time. It's like kind of like omnipresence or whatever, but the focus kind of goes back and forth, which kind of opens up your whole thing in PCs there, doesn't it? But, yeah.
Afterlife NPCs.
It's really interesting. It goes way deeper than people think, you know.
Was Marilyn a huge fan of Michael Jackson before her contact?
Not at all. Nope. In fact, she hadn't really thought of him at all.
I find that really strange that the more I look into Michael Jackson and his afterlife journeys, it seems like he deals with children and non-fans. I wonder why he doesn't deal with fans. Or maybe he does, but you know, I don't hear them out there talking about it or anything.
I know that I was told by multiple psychic people that he was drawn to me because of the way that I interact with my own children. And I basically thought that it was really, like, loving and hilarious because that's how we deal with things, you know. And then you know, like I said, he led me to my mission where I, like, meditate and pray for, like, satanically ritually abused children, and he's helped me with, like, fear, you know, because that's not a pretty, you know, thing to deal with. And he's basically like a spirit guide, and, you know, I've had a lot of experiences with him and similar to, like, what Marilyn's had, and it was so neat because I found her, and, you know, she had actually written books about it, you know, and it's so cool to read someone's experience that, you know, but she was supposed to write that book, you know.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I've checked her out a little bit. Is she Christian, or I don't know? She seems like she might be Christian. Well,
okay. She's actually Catholic, and again, what I say about that is, I think that we get and experience what we believe in, and, you know, some, like me, choose to, like, interact with all of it, and then some people choose to, you know, alleviate all of it, you know. So I just I think that all I know is this. Okay, there's this channel called Skeptico. That's a good YouTube channel, and he asked Marilyn if she was willing to do, like, a test, and they sent her basically out of body to answer some questions of a mother who had lost a child, that and with the stuff that she came back with was undeniable, you know, like the reason that this child had, like, took her own life, and certain flower was mentioned, and the mom had just planted a garden of that in her memory and didn't even know what kind of flower to choose. And, you know, Marilyn had never met the mom, and the mom had, you know, didn't know anything about Marilyn, and they set it up like that. I think they gave her, like, maybe one item of this girl's or something, and I mean, she was, like, dead on everything. So
yeah, I think people connect wherever they're at. I don't see the limitations. I think most of them are put on by man, you know. I think anybody can receive, that they can work their mission from wherever they're at. I don't think there's any limit.
And then you have
That's
to say,
beautiful.
it's just like what we were talking about with SMQAI on there. If you look at the Monroe Institute on Focus 27, they have different afterlife realms, you know, and
Oh yeah,
we
like
have to
consensus ones, like religious ones, and
yeah.
ones that
And see,
they
that's
agree on.
what we're in here. We're in a consensus reality here on Earth. Like, you know, we all agree the Circle K is on the corner. Therefore, it is. You know,
Right.
and that's kind of how it is with like the heavenly realms. You know.
Totally.
So you'll see the things that you expect to be there, and interact with them as you know you would think that you would, and it's really interesting. I'm still learning about all of it. I'm certainly not an expert, but I love looking at it.
Yeah, it's certainly a wonderful topic, and I think we'll revisit it on the show more. I'd like to have more out of body people, and because I think that's something we can do now.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you guys listening to my story and everything, and I hope everyone has a good night, and I'm anxious to see what T. Taylor's got to say. So.
Okay, yeah, she should be called in really soon. So thank you, Sherry, so much. Lots of love to you. I appreciate you. And Sherry will be joining
Have
us.
a good night.
Yeah, Sherry will be joining us Monday for Paranormal Frequencies. Awesome.
Your calls, your stories, on air. You're listening to the Love Stream.
Sharing the love and spreading the light all around the world. This is Unbiased and On the Fence. Hit the 20-second one, not the 10-second one. Want to go back to the phone line? 661 area code. Who am I talking to?
Hello, Shane. It's Michelle.
Hey, Michelle.
I didn't know that Sherry was a call-in. I thought she was, like, co-hosting with you.
Oh, no, she's just calling in.
I was hoping to get you both. This has been, like,
she's still listening.
A really cool day.
She'll probably be in the chat.
Oh, she's still there listening?
Yeah, she's in the chat, so she'll be able to respond there. So you had something really cool happen today?
Yes. It was, about a year ago, I went on my first group meditation. And it was led by a man named Bob Bant. And what he did was we sat in a chair, at the age that we are, and then a younger version of us came out of that body and then sat in front of the TV, and then a younger version stepped out of that body, and, that's how he got us into it. And then, he guided us around, but then he brought us back into the chair at our, age that we're at. And then he said, you know that you're completely safe. Now go and roam around. Well, I ended up roaming around, and I went back under the tree that he led us to. It was absolutely beautiful. But this huge mirror showed up. And when the mirror showed up, I stepped through the mirror, and when I stepped through it, it was all black. Mm-hmm. There was nothing there. It was just darkness. And then I started to dance, and all these colors and stuff started coming out of my hands, and it was amazing. Well, then I stepped back through the mirror, and there was several of us, which there was several of us in this group meditation. Mm-hmm. But earlier today on the Fifth World channel, she was talking about Stonehenge. And she was talking about how the statues, and I've always remembered them to be facing each other. Well, that's how we were, the group. And there was other people there. It was a pretty big group of people that were all there, but we all clasped hands together. Mm-hmm. And then we started to spin, but the motion did not affect us. Mm-hmm. And then something started to appear in the center of us. And then the next thing you know, and this is what she brought up on the Stonehenge, is now the statues are facing outward. Mm. Well, in this meditation, we all turned around facing outwardly, and then we were still holding hands, and we were oscillating like a figure 8 type of, like up and down, but it would be like a huge, like, figure 8 type thing. But we weren't going through the center. But in the center, I was able to see this blue, it looked like Earth or orbish looking because it was translucent. But as we were spinning and whatever we were doing, as being connected, this gray stuff kept falling off, and the ball in the center kept getting more vibrant, and, I mean, the vivid colors, it was absolutely amazing. So when she put that post up today, it immediately took me back to that guided meditation. Now, remember, he set us all free. Well, we had another room that when we come out of the meditation, we go in and discuss what we've seen. Well, another lady saw the exact same thing that I did after we were set free to go and do our thing, with us all holding hands. And I mean, it was absolutely, amazing. I'm going to have to get with her to find out when exactly that happened. Now, she's a good meditative type person, but she meditates herself into such a state that somebody came into the room and it made a sound, and I woke up and realized that I was way out there and she was just leaving us hanging. So I got a little nervous about group meditation, needless to say. Like, the meditator is so meditated, she was going to leave me out there hanging. How was I going to get back? I got that, but it was like, I don't know if I want you to meditate me again. But I thought the synchronicities of that, for the Stonehenge people, the little statues, to have flipped around now and are facing outwardly, is so in sync with that meditation. Like, the Stonehenge is like, earthly replication of what we're all doing in the etheric. As we're all working together, we may not think that we're working together as closely as we are, but we are. We are all doing this hand in hand. And like I said, the gray was just like, it was like sloughing off of the earth, or the circle that was in the center of us. And it was big, and we were moving so fast because I was in the circle, but then I took a view of above to see what the heck was going on. We were moving so fast, but it didn't affect us. The motion, we didn't know about the motion. We just were set on our intentions, and it was just happening. It was so beautiful. So I thought I wanted to share that because it's timely. She just released that today, and it brought that whole meditation right back to the forefront of where I was, what I saw, and what is going on. So, yeah, things are looking up. I mean, there's only one direction to go, and it's too late for anything else. We're moving in the right direction as a oneness, and no matter what religion or what, we're all doing this because the waves are hitting us all. So, yeah, that's what I wanted to share with you, and I was hoping that by using this phone, the sound would be better than using my home phone. So
this sounds great.
Better.
Yeah, this sounds great.
Well, yeah, and now it's been about the 10 minutes for Tony to call, and I don't want to take up a whole lot of your time. Unless you have any questions about that. The mirror thing was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's like, really awesome.
Walking through the mirror and it being completely dark should have frightened me. And I don't know why. I just started dancing. And when I started dancing, then all these colors were streaming out of my fingers, and it's like the dance of creation. And then to show us, as I came out of the mirror, so many of us gathered together holding hands. And we were, like I said, facing in and then facing out. So it's not a one-person operation. We're all doing this together. Even when we feel isolated, we're never alone.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, we're never alone.
Yeah.
It's just
We're
all
never
part of this.
alone.
You know, and I thought back when Sherry was saying that she saw that sign, it was all about you, and I was thinking about the double entendre, and it goes right along with what you're saying about the oneness and everything, because we are one as a whole as well. So it is all about us individually and collectively.
The numbers, the number thing, where that stemmed from, you know, in the Bible, each word in the Bible, and actually each letter for all the words used in the Bible, has a gematria meaning. And when you look up the number, then it'll give you a list of words that mean what that number means, or what else that word means. It may be darkness of night, or you're going to get thrown into outer darkness, okay? But then when you go back and do the research on it, and then the gematria, and then you look up what that actually means, then you get a whole list of these actual, it's completely opposite to what you think that it reads.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I work it with the gematria, is to go back to the basics, the founder of it, and go from there. And wow, Angelus Green Arts. Wow, Shane, do you see that?
Oh wow! Thank you, Angela. Thank you so much.
Oh, is it Angela? Angelus?
Oh, I thought it was just
Green Arts?
I think it was just Angela's Green Arts, but maybe no apostrophe.
Could be.
Maybe you can't do an apostrophe. I don't know. I guess the jury's out. But
That's
thank you for the 70. I appreciate
offering. That. Beautiful, beautiful. But yeah, it's just, you know, there's just something to it. And you're right. Going back to the oneness, and you know, we're getting these abilities to see right through things, and dreams and visions, and just, you know, so many different things are coming online for so many people, and it's where their passion is at, is where, you know, they'll put their energy, and then it'll manifest. And I wanted Sherry to stay on because I don't know if you guys have heard of Suso.
Yeah, he was actually on. He was on Monday.
Yeah, he was on. He was on his anniversary.
Yeah.
Well, there's a room that he goes into that she would absolutely love. I mean, it's got huge orbs. No matter when he goes in there, they always show themselves. They always. I mean, every time he's shown a clip of him talking in that room, they're all over the place. I mean, and they're not dust, because some of them are so darn big that it's not possible. And the way that they dart across or change direction, and the size of them, and then there's little ones and big ones, and I know she's really into that, and yeah, I thought that would be a fun share with her. I know it's supposed are kind of lengthy, but if you can catch the ones with that room in particular, they're so easy to see. Yes.
Oh yeah, I love the whole orb thing. Yeah, Biker Babe sent me some, and Jean sent me one. That was really cool, and it was like, this one was really blue. It was, you could tell there was no way it was dust, because it was like a blue ball. And I've got that. I've got a little compilation video I need to play. I've missed it like 3 times in a row playing it, because we get right into the interview, and I'm like, oh, I forgot to play it again. So there's so many little things to keep track of. So. But yeah, I need to play that one.
I know.
And I love the orb stuff, because I was able to zoom in, and you can see it looks like it's whipping around. I don't see dust doing that. It looked too solid.
The faces? Sometimes they have faces in there.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome. I've never seen a piece of dust with a face in it. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's little faces in there, and I'm not talking evil faces. I'm talking faces. Like, I don't know. Wow. It's, like, everybody's here to see the show, you know?
Yeah.
And we're going to, it's in my opinion that we're going to see more and more of that, because the closer we're coming along with this, the more are going to be coming in to watch this transition. It's a big highlight, you know, it's a big move. And we're doing it. We're doing it collectively and individually.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Oh,
If you
yeah.
ever get a chance and you're in meditation and you come across a big mirror, mine was like a round antique-y looking type mirror, but a full-size mirror.
Mm-hmm.
And I just stepped through it, and it like rippled when I stepped through it. Just go through that mirror and check out the other side. If it's all black, just start dancing and see what happens.
Yeah.
You'll be like, oh my gosh. Or moving. I mean, I don't even know if you necessarily need to be dancing, but just start moving your hands around and watch all the colors, and they're different and vibrant, and it is pretty awesome. I guess I got lucky I came out of there to see what I got to see, because it was pretty cool in there on the other side of the mirror.
Yeah, and I think, the fact that it was dark is what made the color so bright and vibrant, and, just the colors
Yes.
are so much better against the black backdrop. It wouldn't have been very pretty in a completely white area.
Yeah, and they were lit up. It was like in pure darkness. You're right, you got a point there, because the colors show so vividly that, yeah, exactly.
And you could have
Because they
easily
were light.
taken the fearful route and got scared, but yeah, it was beautiful.
Yeah,
Dancing
remove
around.
the fear and have some fun. Is she holding? Is she on the line yet?
No, she's not. I think she's at the dispensary right now. She should be out pretty soon. She's probably rolling up
Cool.
one or something.
Cool.
I don't know.
Well, I don't want to take up too much of your time, because I just couldn't believe the synchronicities, and you know me and synchronicities. I love them.
Yeah, we all love them. Yeah, it was so funny because we had a
Yes.
caller, I don't know, a month and a half ago that said they didn't see synchronicities, and it was 11:11 right at that moment. Were you in the chat when that happened?
I don't know.
Yeah, she was like, I hear everybody talking about synchronicities and I never get them, and then she's going on and on about it, and someone in the chat puts 10:10.
11:11. Yes, I was there.
Oh, okay, yeah. So it was 10:10 my time, but by the time she stopped talking, and I was like, oh, it's 10:10 now. Somebody in the chat just said that she was Eastern time, so she looked at her clock and said, oh my God, it's 11:11 here. So it was cool,
Yeah,
because she
and
said she never got them, but then got one live on the air.
It was 8:11 for me. So I didn't say anything.
Yeah.
Because I'm 3 hours. I'm 3 hours different. Yes, I was there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
that was really cool.
Yeah, I try to catch your shows as much as I can. I've got my favorites, and with creating and doing these books and stuff, they take a little bit of time. A little bit of time. They take a lot of time, but I think I'll get a pattern, and they'll become easier for me. And now that I'm using that dictator software instead of having to type it all out, it's got it makes new words out of words I say. So I have to sometimes talk to it like a robot. I have to robotically talk to it, and then it will type it out right.
Yeah, got to break your words up a little bit. Yeah, I got to do that too.
Yes, and then when I put it in the dictator software, I'm able to copy and paste it onto my own backgrounds in Photoshop, and I like to put it on pretty backgrounds. So, yeah, we all branch out and do different things, but I think a lot of these Gnostic books, and they're not just biblical. I'm doing all kinds of different taboo stuff that we're told to keep our hands off of. Well, I think it's time for the secrets to come out, and even the Book of the Damned is not what it sounds like. It's information. It's actually got a lot of science and stuff in there that they basically withheld from the public.
Mm-hmm.
So by being damned, it means that it went, through the Vatican, and they said no, and then they put it in their vault. Stuff like that. So it's more of a science type. Talks about the floodings of the mud is even in there. I mean, it talked about yellow.
Talking
rain.
about the mud floods?
Yeah, the mud flood's in there, and it was
Wow.
in certain areas were hit, and that was what the scientist was trying to bring forth. And he was, no puddles, he was mad because, you know, they wouldn't allow the people to know or allow an outside scientist to put their 2 cents in. They used reduction, and then when they found the one thing that would be found on Earth, they said, that's what it is. That's what it is.
Oh.
It's not, you know, it can't be anything else except, but didn't even care to let the people know all the other things that were found within, like when it rained red, mud floods, it rained yellow. They had rains that were like black ink, but they only hit certain areas at certain times, and they would hit them simultaneously. It's very interesting. So don't let the name of the book turn you away from broadening your mind. So at least it'll be out there, and once it's out there, people can come across it whenever, and I like to do them in bite-sized pieces because it's a lot of information to absorb. So,
so you're breaking the book down and doing videos on it?
I shamelessly plug my channel. Yeah, I've done 2 episodes of the Book of the Dam. I'm on my 3rd episode, which is, I think, the finishing of chapter 3 and 4, and then it will be part 3, because they're pretty long. I like to keep them at, like I said, between 45 minutes and an hour, and I like to do them as read-alongs. So the text is there for you to read and hear, and I have been blessed with several volunteer readers. They'll have read the book, but they won't have done the texting or the typing it out or whatever. And I ask if I can use their audio, and I have not had anyone say no. They've been so gracious. And then I type it out and then put the backgrounds on it. But now that I've got the dictator, I've been talking into it, and it's learning my voice, but, you know, it takes a little time to do it. But, you know, it's awesome. And I've got, this one, I've got actually, my husband ordered it because this one I don't think people can get their hands on because it's too darn expensive. It's called Liber Lilith, and they've only made 900 copies. So we actually had to get a used copy. And the first one we found was $868 was where the bid was at. And then we got lucky and found it for $200, and my husband jumped on it and snag that up because that's a huge price difference. But I will do that one with also the text in where people can read along with the book. So it's not, you know, it's not like just the missing books from the Bible. I am going to do those, but I'm going to be doing other books that are hard to find and put them out into the public because I think we have the right to know.
That's awesome. So it's just you're reading the book. It's not really a commentary on it? Or
no, and that's all you can find on Liber Lilith is people are doing, you know, critiquing it and making commentary on the book. But how can you take their critiquing and commentary if you have not had access to the book yourself?
Right.
I mean, how can you rebuttal anything that is being said to you if you have not had access? And my point is to give access. And I'm putting them under the Fair Use Act for educational purposes, and that they haven't really given me a hard time with that. So, you know, until they do, you know, I'll have to change my methodology. But for now, I just want to get the information out to the people so they can make up their own minds and find out what's been truly hidden from us. But the Book of the Damned is the one I'm working on now. So, and it's an interesting book. It is nothing like what you think it is.
Is it available online as a PDF or anything?
I don't know. I got lucky to get a volunteer reader on it, and that's where I'm going with it. I'll Oh, see, it is available online, but they have it. It's 14 hours long. Now I know people can't sit there.
Oh, an audiobook?
14 hours. Yes. And it's 14 hours long. It's on YouTube, but it's 14
okay.
hours long. So
that's only 7 hours at 2
them
times.
Down. Huh?
I said that's only 7 hours at 2 times. But no, I only said that because Celestine Prophecies, the audiobook was 9 hours, but I completed it in the evening in 4.5. I couldn't stop. It was awesome. Just so you guys know, that's available online too on YouTube, the Celestine Prophecies. It's like a 9-hour audiobook, and it works well at 2 times. So.
Oh, yeah. Speed them up. Speed them up, especially if I'm the reader. Speed it up. I'm a slow reader. Put it down on 2 times speed.
Yeah, a lot of times it's just the pauses is what really does it, you know. And I find that I do that. I talk fast with a long pause, so that makes 2 times kind of sucky sometimes. I need to slow down and decrease my pause.
Yeah, you don't want to sound like a chipmunk.
Right. Well, that's awesome. That sounds like an awesome topic. The Book of the Dead.
Yeah, I'm still gonna do the, having people on. I've really neglected having people on and live streaming because I've been so engulfed in these projects because they take some time. And then in the meantime, my studio and all that was being built, and it's done. And
awesome.
Maybe sometime offline, I can get with you, and maybe you can assist me on some questions that I have on tying it all together a little more neatly. But I'm trying to make it where, like, there's a guest on, that we can also take calls, and that the guests can hear the calls and through the Uber conference, and it works really well. But you got to mute in Google, otherwise we get a huge echo. So I think I could mute people in Google as soon as the conference comes up, so then they wouldn't have to really worry about knowing about all that. But I bring them in by an email invite, so that way they sound just as clear as you do. And then the callers can call in and ask questions to the guest or whatever the topic is, or give testimony, whatever they want to do. So, it all takes time, and I just celebrated my 1 year.
Oh, nice! Congratulations.
My 1 year anniversary, and if you go back and look at my 1 year ago videos, you'd be like, oh my gosh. At least I do. But I'm leaving them up there because I want people to see where you can go, and if I can do it, anybody can do it.
Yeah, I've left mine up too. As embarrassing as they are, I've left them up too.
Yes, even if I've made a total butt of myself or laughed the whole time because the camera shy thing was huge. But yeah, but we all start from somewhere, and by showing the beginnings gives people the strength to move forward and know that they can do it. And this was all self-taught. If I take her class, I'm sure I will, get a lot of help. I want a good editing software. I'm sure this is boring to talk about. We'll talk about this offline sometime when you have time. And let's get T. Taylor in here.
Yeah, see, she's back in the chat. I was wondering if she's going to still call in. Because I didn't think I'd seen her in the chat.
Call. As you're on the line, then I'll get off. Yeah, call the number now. I see her. She said she's ready anytime.
Oh,
I love
okay.
Kate Taylor. She's a doll. She's a sweetheart.
Yeah, actually,
you tell me when
she'll be on
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
We'll say our goodbyes.
T. Taylor will actually be on Tuesday, but we'll do like a little teaser tonight. We'll have her call in and.
She's coming on next Tuesday?
Yep. She's coming in Tuesday because Michelle Wolf is in Sedona taking a trip, so I wanted to have her on. I'm like, hey, we got this slot we can fill in. You should come on. So she's coming now.
Oh, we got interest on the trip in August. I just need to give the dates. I brought it up over at my place, and there's interest of other people wanting to come and join in. And even though, I mean, it really doesn't matter about the labels. And I remember Sherry saying, labels, labels, labels. We need to just forget about the labels, not worry about that. It's what connects us, you know, which is our heart and our intention. If we all want the same things for everybody, then we're connected. That doesn't matter what label that you put yourself under or think you're under. All that falls away. So there's been some interest. So
that's awesome.
Let's
the more the merrier.
And as soon as you know the dates and stuff, and then whatever you need for participation-wise from people coming, you know, let us know, and we can do this. It'll be great. I can't wait to meet everybody. That's what I'm excited about, is meeting everybody in person.
Oh, yeah, that's going to be awesome.
Oh, yeah, you know what? The energy that we're going to feel, it's going to be so intense. I wonder if we're going to be able, we'll all be like wobbly legs from all of the energy that we're all emitting out. It'll be great. I'm excited. I mean, that would be awesome. Okay, is she on?
She is not here yet. I did want to tell Leland that T. Taylor will be on at 2 p.m. Central Time on Tuesday. They asked in the chat there. Shout out to Twin Flame Divine Fire. Alan and Sandra,
Hi,
welcome
Twin
to the
Flame.
chat. April, of course. Morgan will be back in a few. Okay, you're in the waiting room? That's strange. It's not coming up at all, T. Taylor.
Did she not put her hand up?
Well, she's not showing up as being in here at all.
She would still show up.
Yeah.
Huh, that's weird. Well, I'll let you go. Maybe it'll make it easier for her to flow on in. Thank you so much for letting me share that synchronicity with everybody. It was absolutely
that's awesome.
Amazing. I love
appreciate
all
you calling in.
And make sure you block out either the first weekend or the second weekend of August for that amazing trip in Washington. Not D.C., but Washington State at Trout Lake, right?
Yep. ECETI.
Yeah.
ECETI. Yeah,
Nice.
that's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Michelle.
All right.
Lots of love to you.
Thank you. Love you much. Love everybody much. Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Let's go.
You're listening to The Love Stream.
Unbiased and on the fence.
So, yeah, we're still working on that date for ECETI. It will be the first or the second week in August. And, gosh, they worked right up to that on the calendar. And then, I don't know, everything just got stalled. So, I guess the end of July, right before August, there's a James Gilliland's birthday is that weekend. I think the last weekend of July. And, of course, at the beginning of July, July 4th, they've got that other big event going on, conference going on there with our friend Alice and Co. And just a bunch of other people, Edge of Wonder people, and Corey Good, and who else is going to be there? Jordan Sather. There's a bunch of people. So that's going to be really busy. That's a month before we show up there, though, in August. So they've got a lot on their plate with that. And I'm just going to have to keep hounding them. They don't mind, though. They're probably like me, and they just deal with whatever's put in front of them at the time. So I always encourage people, if I don't respond to you in some way. Email's the best, but you can always get back to me or send me another email, because it is difficult to keep up sometimes. Oh, T. Taylor's going to call back. Yeah, it's showing. It doesn't show anybody here, T. Not sure what's going on. And let's see. Oh, no, really? Let me refresh this and see if something happens. One sec. Let's see. Three, 6, 0. Are you there? No, you're here, T. You're here now.
Okay. No, it's so funny. I just kind of want to launch into this because it's so crazy today. I went to the bank with my son right before I tried calling into your show. And they needed my Social Security card because he's a minor. And she types it in. And she says, "Are you sure this is the right number?" And I'm like, "Yes, I'm sure that's the right number." I don't exist, apparently. She says, "I've never seen this before. There's no date of birth. There's no data. There should be a stream of data for all this stuff that's connected to your..." There's nothing. All it says is 119, like I expired in January of 19. Like, well, what does that mean? And she's like, "I don't know." But she's like, "I'm going to have to actually visually see your card." And I said, "Well, if you see it and see it's the same number," because it is. I said, is that going to, can you override that system? And she's like, "Well, I can do it for our bank, but I don't know what this means. You might want to try and I'm like, but then, yeah, I called twice to you, and both times I raised my hand like 3 times, and you're saying you can't see me, so I'm starting to go, what is, like, what is happening right now? Oh, my gosh. I knew I wasn't grounded. I knew my energy was a little distracted, but I was like, holy crap, I don't even know what's happening.
I just refreshed it on my end, and you popped in there with your hand up, so I don't know.
Yeah, that was like the 4th time, and I'd hung up twice and reset my phone once, and I'm like, when I get upset, and I was a little upset earlier after I left the bank, I have weird things happen with electronics. So for me, it's not anything new, but it's just kind of comical. But it is interesting that it's nice that I'm validated by you saying that you don't see me, and the bank saying that apparently, I don't know what that means, but there's an issue with my Social Security card now.
Oh, wow.
So funny.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Do you
how
think
is
it's
everyone?
something?
Hello.
Do you think it's something crazy, like you shifting? You think it's a personal ME or something? What's going on?
I really have no idea, to be perfect. The last 2 weeks, so let me just breathe for a second. I feel like I've literally been running across town with kids, so I came in a little erratic. I'm sorry, everyone. I'm just going to recenter. I don't know, honestly. The last 2 weeks have been really crazy. And I say that every time. Like, I was just reviewing a couple of my own vids, and I was like, that's the same thing you say every single time at the beginning. It's been so crazy. But it just seems to get more through the looking glass and more through the looking glass. You know what I mean? It just seems like, I don't know about everybody else. Like you were saying, was able to catch part of the show while I was in the grocery store. So much synchronicity and so many, I mean, some of the stuff you want to say, but then you're like, I don't want to say it because I'm going to sound like a lunatic. You know what I mean? And given what I show, I already sound like a lunatic sometimes. But this is just on such a different level. It's like you literally think something and it comes true now. In the weirdest, most abstract way that you weren't expecting, right? So I know, and it's funny because I've had so many people reaching out to me and writing to me, and I would say since that March 21st, and I really do believe that on March 21st there was what I would call a full light activation, which means that they were buffering it. Like Corey Good talks about how the blue spheres have been buffering energy for us for quite a long time. I think he says they still are a little bit. My intuition or my feeling is that that was done on the 21st, and I can say since then, just through the data that I collect in the weird ways that I get it from people writing to me and and sharing their experiences with me, there is a giant influx, a huge influx. I would say like the scale before was like a trickle. Like if you have the tap on, it was like a trickle. A few waking up here and there and here and there and here and there, but it was at like every moment. But now we're talking like I feel like it's hundreds. You know what I mean? Hundreds at every moment. And so many more people are just experiencing these crazy the ascension symptoms, like what Sherry was talking about. I have a feeling that lots of doctors' offices are probably seeing many, many people, because if people are finding me, they're definitely, I'm sure, whole bunches of people that are not finding me and that are actually going to their doctors and complaining about these symptoms and saying, I don't know what's going on. But the fact that the doctor didn't even look at the individual.
Yeah.
I mean, as a doctor, your first instinct would be, let me see what you're talking about. Let me look at what you're actually saying. The fact that he wouldn't even look, to me, goes right back into that memo that I talk about that, was released to a lot of doctors' offices that said, if you see people come in with the following symptoms, do not treat, do not examine, definitely don't look at it under a microscopic evaluation, do not refer to a lab, and instead refer for psychiatric consultation. And all of those symptoms were Morgellons symptoms or sparkle symptoms or that all fits into the same thing. You know what I mean? So I think it's highly interesting, that so many people are probably, like I said, all I can do is share my experience and the information I get, but my personal information I'm getting is the amount of people that were writing to me saying that they had seen these things was a trickle compared to within the last 2 weeks. And it's like a flood now. So I think something has happened that is definitely making more of the collective and more of the sleepwalkers, I would say, much more acutely aware that something is happening, definitely on a much bigger level. And we could say the physical thing is one thing, right? But like you were saying about the synchronicities, there is just too much of that happening.
Yeah, there's way too much. But I've been noticing the same thing where you're talking about, well, for me, it was just a lot of my family that just didn't have any interest in it before are now looking into things. And it's crazy because they're noticing the synchronicities. I've had several people now close to me in my real life say that they're seeing the synchronicities now. So even though I've kind of lightened up a little bit, and because, if people,
you have
people
to,
tend
right?
to think you're crazy,
Right. We're like I said, yeah. Like you were saying earlier, you don't go to the doctor, and you don't do that for a reason, because your intuition was telling you, if I go to my doctor and I say any of this stuff, I'm going to get locked up, you know what I mean, or I'm going to get a script, or I'm going to, there goes that professional relationship, right, because they're going to look at me with that look, right?
Yep.
So, I totally get it, and there's a reason why I kept my main doctor away from, we've talked about a little bit of it, but I definitely haven't gone into detail with him in any way, shape, or form because I need that professional relationship. It's my children's doctor. And there are times when we need 3D surgery or my dude, for instance, who I'm on and off again with, I was gone for 4 days. And I came back, and here, let's launch into that a little bit. I was saying on my channel a little bit earlier, all those relationships, and so many of us were empaths. Probably almost everybody watching your channel and your material is empathic to some degree. They're very aware they wouldn't be able to tolerate what we're talking about, right? And so many of us, though, just didn't set up good boundaries. Because, like, for me, for instance, I thought it was loving and noble to sacrifice myself all those years. I thought if I'm doing everything I can to make everybody else happy, then I have to be doing something right. You know what I mean? I didn't really realize I was kind of doing a lot of things wrong by doing that. I was training people how to treat me, which is not the way I wanted to be treated. B, I was setting up an imbalance of give and take, which is never going to work in the long run to hold any of those relationships together unless I want to be in that position for the rest of my life, which is unhealthy. And then C, karma is karma. So you can't really stop karma no matter how hard you try sometimes for somebody else. You're going to get run over too. So all of us now, with this Uranus energy kind of coming in, we were stuck in Mercury retrograde, which means delays. We were all kind of, miscommunication. It was not, Mercury retro is to kind of bring all that stuff to the surface. And then Uranus comes in, and then with Taurus coming in, that's where the change is going to come, quick. And I think I can say from my personal experience, I did feel like a lot of things weren't moving like I kept saying, like in late March. I remember the statement that kept going through my head was, when are these scales going to get balanced? I feel like I've been trying so hard in every aspect of my life. I feel like I've plugged into this program so hard, and I have tried to do the right thing by everybody so much, but when are they going to get balanced? Because I feel like this is so unbalanced still, and that just seems so unfair. And I'm not asking for a reward, but at the same time, this doesn't feel good, you know what I mean? And so we get stuck in that for a little bit. And so what I did, though, is all that stuff has to come to the surface. So I ended up addressing, and with Mercury retro, you can't keep a lot of stuff in. I mean, the stuff, I explain it like the guy who's in charge of the filter on my mouth is on vacation. And I say a lot of stuff that most people wouldn't say anyway, so it's really bad sometimes. but it's like that stuff that I kind of allowed, I could not allow because it just didn't feel right anymore. That frequency is rising so fast that none of us are going to be able to stay in those relationships that are just unequal anymore. And so that wasn't just my guy; it was my children to some respect. It's my parents. It's everybody that I love, because that's the way I set it up and allowed it. And so I had to kind of reaffirm and then maybe say some things that I didn't really want to say but needed to be said. And maybe, but now that Uranus is coming in, it's like all of a sudden this change, like beginning of April. I want to say beginning of April, mid-April. It's like all of a sudden it's like you think something and then it comes in the strangest way. And you're like, that is actually really cool. I mean, I think a lot of us, my point is, as light workers, we're feeling really frustrated and really stuck. And then I feel like we're just now starting to see some really cool stuff coming in some really nice ways that is balancing some of those scales in a really, really nice way. But as we look behind us, all of those people who are just waking up, now where are they waking up? They're waking up in the same stage as we woke up, pissed off, horrified, you know what I mean? And wanting to tell the world about what they're finding out, which unfortunately is just reiterating all of that negative vibration, which we already know, but they're just figuring it out. So it's a really tough situation, I think, for a lot of us to be in. And like you were saying, even those that we love, who are resistant, and most of us had to chill out and just shut up because we realized, meet people where they can meet you. You can't force somebody in this because you cause resistance. And like I loved Magenta Pixie's last video that she just put out today, I think it was, or yesterday. And she goes over what she talks about in her book, this new book that she just released, which I just ordered today, so I'm so excited. But she's talking about this exact thing. A lot of people are just waking up and they want to talk about chemtrails and they want to talk about nanotech. I mean, I can't tell you how many people are finding my channel, and I hadn't seen this for a long time because most everybody who's watching my content had now understood that we were in this process, you know what I mean? So very rarely I would get like a new person would be like, oh, it's chemtrail, and just freak out immediately. But now in the last, couple of weeks, it's like I'm just seeing inundated with it because so many people are just figuring it out. And so we just, we're also seeing a lot of people within the community criticizing each other. It has to be this way, and I'm guilty of that myself. So that is definitely something I need to work on as well. And there are so many other perspectives, but it is frustrating for so many of us not to be supportive of each other because we're all looking for the truth. And I think there are, nobody really watching your stuff is like that, to be perfectly honest, but we've all seen it. And everybody here has seen it within all social media. And it's like you run into a discussion and somebody's like, it has to be this way. You know what I mean? And it's like, not necessarily. And we need to be tolerant of other people's perspectives because everybody is on a different level. And sometimes we think we have it all figured out, and then it's like, all of a sudden you get a new download, and you're like, oh, shoot, I was off.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I was
totally.
so off. But, I mean, and as long as we can laugh about it, you know what I mean, and just play with it and remember this is supposed to be something good. This isn't supposed to be something that's so serious that it freaks us out all the time. I think we'll be okay. But it's just, I have definitely seen some, I would say almost magical events happen, and just really crazy things that I never, ever, let me just give an example. So for instance, 2 weeks ago, my son is doing everything right. Well, both my boys, including the boy that I've taken, that's mine now. But, all three of them are working really hard towards their education. I could not be more proud. My youngest, however, is a superstar. He is not only going to high school, he's going to college at the same time. So, and he's 17. So by the time he graduates from high school, he will already have his 2-year degree. Fantastic. And then he just started working. So he's working at McDonald's now too. And you got to start somewhere, but he was doing so good. And I was so proud of him. He's getting like all A's. And his dad just got him this really crappy little car to get around, but it's a car, right? And so he's making it happen. And I just couldn't be more proud. And then and then everything's going so wonderful. And then all of a sudden he's like, Mom, something's wrong with my car. So we get it into the shop, and it's going to cost more to fix the car than it costs to buy the car. Let me put it that way. So the car is totaled because it just blew up. But my initial thought process that you initially go to is, what the F? Like, what are we going to do? Because I knew I couldn't take care of that. I knew I did not have the resources at that moment to go and get him a new car. B, I knew he needed that car because I cannot shuttle 3 children to everywhere that they need to be. Their schedules are so tight. I mean, I can, but it's insane. It's absolutely insane. Like, I'm speeding all over town, like literally probably breaking the law to get them to where they need to be. Don't tell anybody. But, you know what I mean? But it's like I'm literally in the car from like 7:30 a.m. to 4 o'clock p.m. because they're all going in different directions. And I want to support them in that. But my other point is, you know, then all these thoughts start going through your head. And you're like, oh, my God, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And so, you know, I reach out to my ex-husband for help. And I don't want to talk negatively about anybody. Let's just say he hasn't been he doesn't come up with resources as much as he probably should sometimes in helping the kids. So I didn't really have a lot of high hopes, and his wife is pregnant again. So I was like, oh boy, I didn't think that he was going to come through, but I just let it go. You know, I sat back and I said, I'm not going to do what I usually do. I'm just going to ask the universe for help. I'm going to throw my hands up. Jesus, take the wheel. You know, just throw them up and say, hey, I can't fix this, but I know in my heart of hearts that my son has amazingly good karma right now. I know I do too. I know that he deserves something wonderful to happen, and so something will. I just have to trust that it will. And I would add in too, as a side note, I have so many people writing to me right now that are lacking that key. And I get it, because I go through it all the time. It's like I get it sometimes, and I lose it. But we trust that we're going to swing our legs out of bed in the morning and that we'll be able to stand. You know, we trust that when we go to turn the water on, there's going to be water that comes out. We trust, you know, so many things in that nature, but yet we don't trust the universe because we were taught not to, right? So we don't trust that something wonderful is going to come in, because in our head, we were taught to do the exact opposite. We were taught to tell ourselves, never going to happen, good luck, you don't deserve it, you know, on and on and on. So I always instantly, I still do that sometimes, launch into that, and then I stop myself immediately and go, no, we're not going back to that broken programming. We're going to redo this. So I rethink it through, and then sure enough, his dad sends a message, and like literally 2 days later says, hey, I'm going to give you my car. I went and got a new one, so it's handled. I'm just going to make, you know, amazing. But my point is that is a miracle.
Awesome.
If anybody knew my ex-husband, would be cracking up right now. I'm just saying, sorry, excuse my language, because that would never happen in real life. Like literally, I have gone to another dimension because I took everything, because that would never, ever, ever, ever. But it's, you know, but like I said to my son, I said, but to see, this is a reward. This was never supposed to be a bad thing. Having the perspective to stand back for a second and just look at the whole situation, I said, this was never supposed to be a kick in the ass. This was always the universe trying to say, we are rewarding you because you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. We're so proud of you. So when the car broke down, it was never supposed to be a, you know, like a negative. It was always going to work out that way. It's just I couldn't see the end. So you know what I mean? And I think if a lot of us just start maybe trying to process that differently, because here's the funniest synchronicity about that. A friend of mine, I don't know if they would want me to say their name, so I won't publicly, but I know they watch your show too. But she sent me a message yesterday, and and she said, apparently there's a bug outside that he's got to bark at or something. But she said, you know, it's so funny because we had our car break down, and I didn't know what we were going to do, and we ended up getting a brand new free Honda Pilot. And then we also ended up getting a brand new not a brand new camper, but a camper too for free, you know, within a couple of days of that. She said, I can't believe these miracles that are happening. And I said, oh my gosh, that's so funny, because my kid just ended up getting a car that we didn't expect either. So, you know what I mean? Those synchronicities just keep pouring in the most beautiful ways. And I think a lot of people are starting to see just the edge of that, maybe just the tip.
Yeah, I love those little miracles, and I think they're going to start happening more and more. I've had some weird visual things happen with me. I was taking a drive the other night, and it was rain. I went into some rain, and so, you know, the cars were kicking up the water on the road, and so I had a car behind me. The car was coming the other way, and it had turned off its bright lights as it came over the hill, and it passed me, and I looked in my mirror to see. I just glanced to see if he was going to turn his bright lights on or whatever, but there was no car there at all. The car that had just passed
gone,
me
right?
was just gone. It was like it was never there, and there was no water it kicked up or anything. There was no proof it had ever been there. It was like the moment it passed me.
But you knew.
I saw
it had been there, right? right?
Yeah, I was just I'd look to see if he's gonna turn his bright lights back on, but no car there. I'm like, what the heck? And I even I turned around in my seat and looked. I'm like, am I just not seeing it? What the heck, But it was freaky.
No.
It was freaky.
Have you seen, there's a YouTube video or a couple, have you seen those where the car comes out of nowhere and nobody's been able to debunk it and nobody's been able to explain it?
Oh, no, I haven't
there's
seen it.
the one I'll try and put it in the comments later, but there's a YouTube video you guys should search out, and it literally shows this black car, and I think it's one of the most famous ones that I've seen used over and over again, because nobody so far has been able to debunk this. But it comes literally out of nowhere and almost causes an accident. Like, it literally just comes out of nowhere in the middle of this major intersection. I want to say it's over in the UK or something, or somewhere over there, but there's literally like 20 cars in the middle of this intersection, and it almost causes like a 4-car accident, because there's like literally so many lanes going. It's definitely not the United States, but it's just like, it looks like it even startles the driver. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's totally crazy. The only thing I've had driving like that was once, for me, I was driving, and it was the same thing. It was dark, and it was kind of rainy, so there was some water on the road. And I remember thinking that the colors in the water on the road were very interesting. And the next thing I knew, I swear my car had jumped forward. I'm really bad with distance. God, I'm so bad with distance. But let's just say it had been 3 or 4 car lengths back, and then I was almost on top of a giant boulder in that instant, was my point. And I remember saying to myself, what the F? But it was a weird feeling at the same time. It was like, I don't know how to explain this. It was like everything blurred all of a sudden, and it was like I could feel this. I don't know how to explain that, but it's the only time I've had something weird in the car happen. But it scared me enough, let me put it this way, that I went right home after that, because I was like, I don't know what's going on here. But all I could think of was that car, and I was like, I don't want to teleport me in my car in the middle of an intersection somewhere in like London or something. Like, it freaked me out for a second, so I went home.
Yeah, I've seen a few videos like that, and that I've seen, and I've often wondered that. But God, it's just different when it happens right in front of your eyes, and you have a difficult time believing it yourself. Yeah, even if you've seen it, you're like, did I just see what I just saw? It's trippy.
Right, because half the people would just hear your story or my story and go, they're just crazy. They were tired. You know, she must have fallen asleep for just a half a second, or you know what I mean? Maybe she took something. Who knows? You know what I mean? But when it happens to them, like the sparkle thing, you know, it's one thing if some crazy chick on YouTube is trying to show you this stuff, but when you look at it and you realize it's happening to you, it's all of a sudden totally different. You know, it's real. So, you know.
Then you try to go to the doctors and they lock you up for being crazy.
They lock you up, right?
That's crazy.
I think it's just a sad state of affairs, though, that, you know, they handle that so differently in other countries. You know, I think Higher Self had put out a video, you know, quite a while ago, and I'm sure you can find several about the way that shamans handle that in, you know, tribes. I mean, the whole tribe comes together to support somebody in that instance. Instead of in the Western United States, we take somebody, and if they have their spiritual gifts coming online, we literally beat them into submission. I mean, we will electric shock them. We will lock them up. We will restrain them. We will tell them they're crazy. We'll dope them up. You know what I mean? And I can't imagine going through that on top of going through an awakening process. That has got to be torture. I mean, really, at the highest levels. I can only think the strongest of people survive that kind of an experience. But I do think there is just too many of us now, you know what I mean? And I do think, like Sherry was saying, like at her doctor's office, it's one example. I did ask my doctor the last time I was in, kind of sneakily, I said, are you seeing an increase in people with, you know, kind of the weird symptoms that I've discussed briefly with you? And he said no, but then he did say, I have, although, seen an increase in people coming in with rashes and this and that, and he named about 4 or 5 different kinds of rashes that he had treated. And I said, well, let me guess, a lot of people think they have parasite bites and this kind of thing. And he's like, yeah. And I said, okay, well, what I'm talking about. That's exactly what I'm talking about, but okay. You know what I mean? And so, but you could tell, like, all of a sudden he made the connection and was like, I'm going to have to think about that after she leaves. You know what I mean? But, you know, he did say he'd been treating, he said that he had diagnosed them accordingly, and that, you know, but then you could tell, like, I'd sparked something, so he's probably going to ponder it after I left. I know we're out. I know. I don't know what to tell you. I don't have any. We're out of paper towels. I forgot them at the store. So my son's looking at me with a shocked expression. And I'm like, I don't know. He can go hit a tree or something. But yeah, you know, so I just think it's going to be, really interesting. But I don't want to tie up your whole night. So
But I
if
know.
anybody has any questions, though, I'm
Okay, yeah. If anybody has any questions, please do chime in. T. Taylor will be back with us Tuesday. So if you think of anything later, or you're watching this later, hop into the chat on Tuesday at 2 p.m. Central Time. And, she will be back live. So we will do some more talking then. Okay, so you were talking about... you getting the word out about this stuff, I think, is really important because people will know, hey, just chill with going to the doctor and talking about this stuff. You know what I mean? Just take note of it and don't feel alarmed. Yeah.
Right. I think I should legally add the disclaimer. Please go to the doctor, however, if you really have an issue. Like, please don't not go to the doctor if you don't have an issue. Legally, I should probably say that. I don't want anybody not to go because, I said, be careful with the doctor. But I would say, too, one of the best pieces of information that I had in the very beginning was a set of articles by Dr. Georgie Stankov. Now, he is a medical doctor. And also Bruce Lipton is a wonderful source of information who I just refound last night. I'd seen him early on in my awakening, kind of forgot about him, and refound him last night. Now,
he's been coming up a lot for me, too.
Yeah, it is, isn't it, all of a sudden? All of a sudden it was like he was hidden, and now he's like not hidden. Yeah. I'm like, oh, there you are.
That's weird, because now I'm thinking a shift or something, because you saying that, and then I'm like, well, it was the same thing for me. I think it was Diane told me about him a long time ago, and I started watching him, and then he kind of disappeared, and then, I don't know, in the last week or so, he's been popping up. I've watched a few of his videos. It's happening to you, too,
so synchronistic. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Fantastic. But it's so on point, and he is so on point. And, I was trying to get my youngest son to watch his stuff, because I'm like, he actually taught medicine for 20 years. He practiced medicine, and then he taught it at a really high-ranking university for 20 years.
Wow.
So this guy has that know-how. He understands the human body in a physical sense. He did all the things that we go and talk to our practitioners about. So I thought it was amazing, the information that so I'd highly suggest Bruce Lipton for people. But Dr. Georgie Stankov is probably the only source of information that I've seen from somebody who's actually licensed with a medical degree at this point that goes over some very precise symptoms that you will see with this process and in very detailed clinical explanations for, what drugs will not work, what drugs, there's only one drug I think that he says does work, and I want to say it's like a blood pressure medication or something, and he says that only works during one part of the process and for a limited, very short, and there's a definite, it needs to be overseen. It doesn't need to be something that somebody takes a whole lot of. It would be for a very specific set of circumstances. But he talks about very clinical aspects of this process. So anybody who's maybe entering the process or having some of those symptoms that are uncomfortable, I would definitely say check out Dr. Georgie Stankov. I did a 2-part breakdown of that article on my channel, so of course it's covered on my channel, but you can find his information through, I think, Universal Arts. You just look him up, you'll find his stuff. It's Universal Press or something. He has his own website, but he's a wonderful source of information for a lot of that really, because sometimes, you want those answers that you would get from your medical doctor. I know that's what I wanted. I worked for doctors. I wanted to understand what the F I was seeing literally from my physical body, because I knew it wasn't supposed to be like that. And nobody had any answers for me. And that's when I freaked out, because I'm like, well, what does that mean? What does that mean? We have all of these, that's not cancerous, but that's not, what does that mean, And then we all go through that process. But I would say if you're just beginning the process, if you're looking at other things like chemtrails, that's just part of the process. So don't beat yourself up about it, and don't feel like you can't look at those things. We all kind of go through that. I started there. It has to be a very individual process where you are able to, really come to terms with things in your time, in your way. And nobody can tell you how to do that. So if somebody's trying to tell you it has to be their way or the highway, tell them to take a leap. You know what I mean? Yeah, everybody's going to do this individually. Time for them. And here's the thing. Everybody's light body is different. So not everybody's going to represent the way that I particularly show it. But like you were saying, I think it's so important that the information gets out. Because like Sherry was saying, how many people are going to the doctor's office? How many people are... Because for every person that actually goes in, there's probably 30 people who are having symptoms that don't know what to do about it that aren't going to go in. My dude hasn't been to a doctor in 16 years. He's not going to go unless he's dead, literally, or I have to drag him in because he's dying. You know, I mean, I'm not even kidding. He has a second kneecap right now. It's everything I could do just to go, and make him adjust that. But it's just trust yourself, you know. And if you do feel like you need a second, go at least talk to your doctor. But just, I would say, like, be careful what you say is what I would say. You know, bring it up in a way that doesn't get you a psych eval. How's that? Because, like, when I brought it up with my doctor, here's what I knew would get me a psych eval. Let me maybe spell it out for some people. Don't bring samples in. Okay, don't bring samples in. Don't bring fibers in. Don't bring filaments in, because that's going to get you a psych referral. That's the first thing he was looking for, you know. And that's when that memo I'm talking about, that was the, in parentheses on the bottom caption, anybody who brings in samples. That literally was in parentheses at the bottom of that memo that I talk about. So, yeah, don't bring in samples. That's my best advice to you. Because when he looked at me and he said, well, do you think? And I said, no, I don't think that bugs are eating me and I'm going to die. And no, I don't think that. I said, but I do think that there's something happening to the physical body right now that I don't think you were trained for. And I do think that I'm rational and logical enough to be able to understand that something is happening to my physical body that I worked with you guys that is not supposed to be happening. I said, so, no, I don't have samples for you today. And then he sighed. He audibly sighed in relief. Because he was literally Googling Morgellons as we were talking. I'm literally in the room watching him do it because I could see his computer. And I said, oh, you're looking up Morgellons? I said, don't look at that stuff. That's going to freak you out. And then he just laughed because he was like, oh, my God, because he said he didn't know anything about it. So I'm like, well, and then he said, well, do you think? And I said, no, first let's just stop right there. Let's not go down that track. I said, no, I have a totally different perspective than what that is. I said, but I do think that there is something happening. I said, and I do think you're going to see more people coming in with some of these symptoms. And he started scratching his head a little bit. You know, he's like, well, now you can say it. He's like, I do have a lot of people coming in with rashes. A lot of people. And I said, well, does the treatment that you prescribe work? And he never answered that question. And then I said, well, do they just stop coming in and saying anything about it? And then he just kind of smirked at me, like he'd never really considered the possibility. And then all of a sudden I just made him consider the possibility. So it's kind of funny. But that's I do think that, I think there are so many nurses that I have that are so awake and so aware, because I think you have to be so nurturing to be a nurse in the first place, like Sherry, you know what I mean? And so I think there are so many of those guys positioned. I think everybody, it's like a symphony. It's exactly where they're supposed to be right now. And if they're not, they're moving towards that place. So just trust yourself and trust that you are. But I think there are so many people positioned in places, at just the right time for somebody. And it doesn't even take her having it would be great if she could sit down, Sherry, if you're looking, obviously we would love, and you would love if you could sit down and have a discussion with them, but we know that would put your job in jeopardy. So that's not going to fly. But you don't have to even say anything. Sometimes just a smile, and it's really you just being in their presence. You will activate them, and even you will pair almost like Wi-Fi instruments. You know what I mean? Like you will actually connect together with that grid that we can't see, and so you don't have to even say anything, but it'll give them something that they need. Just because, why do you think they came when you were there right at that moment? Right. That wasn't coincidence. That wasn't an accident. It's because you were going to have to interact, because they were going to need an activation of some sort, and it doesn't have to be consciously. It can be unconsciously. So just trust that you're always in the right place at the right time. You know what I mean? But just be looking for it, because the more that we look for it, the more that we can take it to the next level, and then be, working with the energies. It's one thing to do it on that unconscious level, but when we can take it to that next level, to those, I know you're here and I don't have to say anything, but, kind of work around that in certain ways, that's when it's going to get, I think, really, really great. And when we start doing these giant group meditations. Oh, I was going to bring that up. I don't want to, because they weren't ready to go super public. They don't want any interference, but they were a group from another country, let me just put it that way, that had reached out and contacted me. And they're really looking at pushing we're all in these different we all have our own communities, let me put it that way. And they really want to branch these communities, especially the ones over different country lines, because it will really make a huge difference. And they were talking about doing these group, some big giant group meditation, or some big giant where we all connect at the same time, and And I said, I'm not sure, because when I meditate, I need to be alone. I don't think I can do that on a live stream. That's not, I don't think going to work for me personally. I said, but if I can tell my viewers when we're going to do it, you know what I mean? Like, we can all bring these communities together, and the impact that we can make could be really staggering. And that's what their idea was, and they'd reach out to me, and I said, I would love that, and I think I know a lot of other people that would love to participate too. So I thought of you, of course. So when I know more, I will definitely link up to you. But I think even if we, I don't know what, I haven't heard from them in a little bit, but even if that falls through, I think we should all start doing that more and more, because one person is powerful. Two, like Bruce Lipton was just saying last night, you had 3, you have 15,000 subs. If even half of them would participate, that could change the world in a much faster, much easier fashion. And I know I've been being nudged to do it, but I just sat on it because there's so much happening. Like, literally, I left a $20 in the ATM today and had to have the guy say, did you want to get that? And I'm like, oh, my God. If I didn't have my head attached, I don't think it would still be with me. Let me just put it that way.
Oh, wow.
I feel like a lot of people are laughing right now. But, so I don't know. I don't know where half of that came from, but I just got excited to talk to you, so it just kind of flowed out. Forgive me.
Well, awesome. So T. Taylor will be back with us Tuesday, and I will let you get back to your shopping. I appreciate you taking the time to come and chat with us, and I'm looking forward to
Thank you for letting me.
Tuesday. Everybody always loves having me on and talking and everything, so I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to it, too. I love you guys. All right. Take care. I'll talk to you guys later.
Lots of love to you. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Let's go.
You're listening to The Love Stream.
Unbiased and on the fence.
So it's interesting. We got Eileen. One is in the chat. I don't know. We're going to have Cynthia Sue Larson on with us here, I want to say next week, or I guess I think it might be a week from tomorrow. Yeah, it's a week from tomorrow. But we're going to have Cynthia Sue Larson back. I don't know if you guys saw, did you see her newest video? This was really interesting, and it really ties into this whole idea of shifting into a different reality and the Mandela effect and everything. But someone had contacted her and said that for them, she had passed away. She kind of disappeared for a while, and then they went to look for her, and her husband had left a comment saying that we regret to inform you that Cynthia Sue Larson has passed away from her, she had a sickness or whatever. So anyway, this person had contacted her and told her about this, and she goes, the funny thing is, I was actually sick at that time that you're talking about, but she didn't die in this reality. So I don't know. You guys can check out her newest video where she talks about that, but man, it really makes you wonder about the nature of our reality. Crazy stuff. A big thank you to T. Taylor again for coming on, chatting. Like I said, Tuesday, 2 p.m. Central Time, she will be on since Michelle Wolf is in Sedona. So you guys can join us tomorrow evening. Oh my gosh, 2222 on the runtime on the video here. So I'm going to wrap this one up a little bit early tonight, and we will be back tomorrow night with Eileen and the Power of 8 at 8. Lots of love to you guys. We'll see you on the next one. Have a good one.
If you'd like to support the work I do, go to paypal.me/UOTF. Thanks.